xQc, a psychological analysis, freestyle method. I'm just gonna freestyle him because I don't really have that much information on him and his inner world. He hasn't written a manifesto like, let's say, Hitler has or the Supreme Gentleman. xQc, a mastermind or autistic, highly cognitive or Down syndrome, Apollonian or Dionysian, a true friend or an evil scammer, a criminal or a law-abiding citizen. The first time I noticed xQc was back in the day when I just started playing Overwatch, and at the time he was an Overwatch streamer on Twitch. I believe his professional career in the Overwatch League had just come to an end, and he was focusing, rather just mindlessly playing 15 up to 20 hours of Overwatch every day and streaming it away. A peculiar young man, xQc, I thought. He was slamming his table, breaking his keyboard, fist-fighting his mattress, and leaving his Christmas tree out until April next to his... It wasn't dirty, it was a clean mattress. Tiny pieces of trash were all over the carpet. Plenty of empty cans on his table. His hair was always messy. His shirt looked sweaty and his devices rattled on the table every time he slammed the table. At the time he had around 2 up to like 4,000 viewers on the average. He was screaming, he was farting in the microphone. He was highly focused when playing the game. And gradually fell into this unwell state of his body shaking in dysmorphic ways and his brain having emotional breakdowns. I was highly entertained and loved his character on my screen. I was confused, wondering, bamboozled, stupefied. This man did it and still does it. This beautiful act of insanity for up to 12, 14, 60, 20 hours straight. Many questions at the time and even now arose in my mind, but one thing was for sure: I was coming back. A closer look. Is xQc schizophrenic? Maybe. Born on November 12, 1995, the year of the wood pig. Like a Trojan horse, he is the Trojan pig, who disarms one with his non-threatening vibe. Full of surprises and unexpected behavior, he will rip that fart you like to hear, and you'll laugh about it for minutes straight. His true purpose in life, perhaps, is just as obvious and loud as his fart. It is to entertain millions and millions of people online. The wooden Trojan pig has suddenly a fate and prophecy written all over him, as the stars in the nightly sky. Scorpio, self-loving and aware of the lethal aspects and dangers of life. In relationships with other human beings, xQc can be very attached, or he can be very distant. And he can choose to be there forever, or he can choose to cut one off forever. In general, a Scorpio is romantically very aloof. But if he does like someone, he'll become very, very passionate about that person. Because of his pig factor, the route friend to a romantic partner is the most optimal for him. A typical problem for the Scorpio is not to show his affection. His best match is someone who is very, very playful and ambitious. Astral signs and its identity. The combination of zodiac and astral signs and its psychological effect on the psyche. Obviously, one will run away from the pig and enjoy the pride of the Scorpio. Overall, it's a good balanced combination, understanding both sides of the coolness spectrum. The pig humbles you and makes you friendly towards others. The Scorpio then decides who are your closer friends. Number 12. Looks like his parents smashed around Valentine's Day. And that's why he's a little bit different than the usual calculated winter baby. He's more of a passion baby. And that comes with him loving and enjoying life quite a bit. And his parents having high hopes for him. And I think these hopes have been satisfied because he's quite successful and had a very interesting Overwatch career. I also think that because he was a passion baby, his professional Overwatch career suffered a little bit because of his eccentricity. xQc shares the number 12 with Ryan Gosling, Anna Hathaway, wrestling star Elektra, and Japanese mathematician Yutaka Taniyama, and Charles Manson, baby. That's so xQc. The number 12 is one of a full circle, one of Kronos, the clock and the months, and one of the family too. It's a perfect circle. That gives him a lot of stability. Spirit animal. An animal that describes the person's character best. What is xQc's spirit animal? Probably a cat or a dog, or something domestic. Maybe a chicken or a monkey. Spirit symbol. A symbol and culture that describes the person best. Well, xQc's symbol, I think, and culture is Lucifer. Banished from the Overwatch League, he streamed at the same time and had more viewers than Overwatch League. And I think that's quite the definition of Lucifer himself. Name: Felix Lengyel. Lix is the Roman for 59, and Fe is ferrum iron. That's iron 59, and I'll leave the rest to the schizophrenics. Both his name and nickname have symbolic potential. Felix in general sounds very fun, mechanic-like. Felix, from the Latin word meaning happy, lucky. If you give someone the name Felix, it'll make the person more light-hearted, and it will make them understand fun and luck better, and happiness too, perhaps. It is also a biblical name, and if you're interested, you can Google it and read about that more. Langley means Polish, Pole, according to the internet. Sounds somewhat gentleman-like, but overall, because his family is Hungary descendant, it's probably a very average, normal European surname. There isn't too much to that. Overall, I think it's a great name and it fits him quite well. And in a sense, if you look at his name and his date of birth, and that is probably was conceived on Valentine's Day, I think you can say that he was born in a lucky, happy t-shirt for sure. Family and the resulting psyche from it. xQc has a brother. Right away that implies a lot of things. It means he has a clear understanding what a brother is and what a friend is. I'm not sure if there's a statistic, but having a brother makes you more responsible and closer to your family. I assume some fighting must have happened, so he would rather be familiar with that in general and standing his own ground. Among men, he most certainly is a quality comrade, since most brothers are. probably not the worst of soldiers, since he has only one brother. He is able to understand most of his needs and the psychology of fellow men. However, since he doesn't have any sisters, his main female in the family he is learning everything from is his mother. Most naturally, this develops a natural mother complex. So, his preference in women most likely is that of the traits and qualities of his mother. I would assume he has a great dad, but this I simply do not know. A good dad most certainly would produce such a good offspring in my mind. Culture. I don't think he likes any older culture or particularly identifies with any of it. He's a Canadian European descendant, and his preference in culture, as of most North Americans, is probably that of the modern culture, and mostly the one he grew up with. His taste in music and movies and video games probably have been the main influences for his identity as he grew up in the West. Overwatch. In Overwatch, he was one of the best tank players out there, and competing in such a popular video game on the highest level not only demands endless hours, but also something special, something that allows to be better at the game than others. The main thing that will give the greatest advantage to becoming a pro player is a great environment, having a good learning mechanism, and of course eye-to-hand coordination, and a big smart brain. Chess. When it comes to chess, I have to say that he has a 5-head. The speed he became better at the game was rather impressive, and this is an indicator of a high amount of glutamate receptors in his frontal cortex and his hippocampus. This approves my idea that he could be a very smart engineer of some sorts if he chose to. I think his behavior often makes one think that he's not as smart as he actually is, because he most definitely has the neuropsychological hardware to be very, very smart, and overall I think his intelligence is way above that of the average man. But he just has a lot of unlocked potential, and he's only in the beginning of unlocking this potential if he wishes to do so. Ancient War scenario. If I was in an ancient war, I would put xQc next to the trebuchet. I think he'll be best there to decide where to shoot and how to shoot, and how much to shoot. In a more modern warfare setting, he would be just as good behind the screen of a drone. Putting in 20-25 hours of work is rather admirable and deadly. Shadow. In analytical psychology, the shadow, also known as the ego dystonic complex, repressed ID, shadow aspect, or shadow archetype, is an unconscious aspect of the personality that does not correspond with the ego ideal, lead the ego to resist and project the shadow. In short, the shadow is the self's emotional blind spot projected. When it comes to xQc's shadow, I don't think he's a dark or violent person. Another thing, he has issues with his behaviors. Also, he is so interlocked in his family, little of his shadow will be visible under normal circumstances anyway. Just for the fun of it, I can scale his likelihood of committing one of the deadly sins as a projection of his potential shadow. Lust. 1 out of 10, I would say he's around 3 or 4 on the lust scale. Rather unlikely he'll become the next Jeffrey Epstein, or will be caught having sex orgies with other Twitch streamers. I don't think that's the case here. Gluttony. Even if his diet is more sugary at times, as for now it's just a 1 or 2 out of 10, I would say. In future he might become fatter, and his character could add up to 2, 4, maybe it's a 6, who knows, we'll see. Greed. This one probably is a little bit on the higher side, probably around a 6 or 7. And it's a rather harmless sin. I think sometimes, in the case of xQc, greed is good. It can be a motivation to some extent when his streaming gets boring for him. So he can keep going just for the sake of money, I guess. Sloth. Forget greed. This is probably the highest in his sin list. I would give his sloth a solid 9, especially in the earlier days. It is too an absolutely harmless sin, so it's whatever. Wrath. Probably a low score, like a 2 or 3. If it doesn't involve his personal life, his family, or streaming ability, he won't really care much. I don't think there's much of a desire for him to dominate or to be in a dominant position because he's simply too good-hearted. Envy, probably around a 3. I think there has to be something on a personal level he doesn't share, but overall he has it all, so he doesn't really have much reason for this sin. Pride. He seems humble, but I would say his pride is around 6 or 7, and rightly so. He has been blessed and achieved a lot, and he has been there to entertain us for endless hours, so it's not a terrible sin, and I think he can justify that. Overall, I think xQc is a good guy and doesn't have much of a shadow. My favorite of xQc. My favorite of xQc were his streams of GDA. Jean Paul's adventures were the best. Here, he displayed his most creative and irrational behavior. That was very much entertaining. xQc in the virtual world can produce a really, really fun character, even if it's borderline himself. Just with a little bit of extra insanity. Nothing appeals to my taste like playing slots on stream just to top it off with some more slots in GTA. Getting irrationally mad at GTA policemen just because he disagrees with the role they're playing. Brilliant. Future. Well, I think xQc is gonna stay the way he is and become a little bit more serious in a sense. And I think he might develop a taste for liquor and maybe, who knows, whatever he'll pick. I think that is one of the things that's coming a little bit. He is becoming more serious. He already has matured quite a bit. If you look at his earlier streams and his streams post year 25, he's becoming more serious. His prefrontal cortex is growing out and he's becoming an adult. Unless there's something negative with a very strong psychological effect inducing some sort of crisis, I think his crazy days are behind him. I think he might put on some extra weight with time. And I think the most interesting thing about xQc is if he's gonna keep unlocking his intellectual potential and do something with his brain, because he can be very smart, and I wonder if he will get on a path of actually developing and doing something with that. Or he'll just stay above average and, you know, live a streamer life or whatever, or discover something interesting what to do. But overall, I think he has a lot of intellectual potential he might use. If I look at like xQc at the age of 40, I see him maybe involved in some company that is doing something technology, maybe, or something like that. Yeah, something like that. Overall xQc is good looking, smart, successful. He is good-hearted. He is funny. He is sane. he is. He doesn't have Down syndrome. he hasn't any autism. I mean, he's doing fine. He's above average, quite a bit above average, and yeah, it's all good. I hope he doesn't get bored of what he's doing and can keep us entertaining for many more years. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I'll be making more of these, and I'll be making other interesting videos soon. And if you would like to read something very, very funny and very cool, you can check out the links below, or you can go to Amazon and check out Glazed Neon. It's a book I wrote. It's a very, very funny book. Yeah, see you around guys. Until next video.